Hello, hello, hello. I'm in the mood to talk about more tabletop RPG stuff, so that's what we're gonna do today. Let's talk about character generation. Sorry, I have to think about everything because I'm a little burned out. I've been working on stuff all day. Let's talk about character generation. A lot of people always end up saying like, "Oh, I have no idea of like what to do for a character or ideas what I want to do for a character." They act like they have to be the most original thing or like they have to meet a certain criteria or requirement and some tables may say that you need to. Some tables may say that, like, yeah, it's going to be this kind of campaign, so make sure your character agrees with the mood. I typically not like that myself as a GM. Oftentimes, I'll just be like, yep, throw your character in, just be aware that, like, especially if I'm running a pre-con, I might not be able to do anything with your character backstory, but you can have whatever character you want. And if you can find a way to make it work, we can try and make it work. Um, But like my two typical things that I will do when I'm generating a character is I will either start with a build that I want to play, something number wise that interests me. So like Petros actually started as a build. Petros is the healer that I talked about a while ago. He is perhaps the most OP healing you can do in Pathfinder First Edition, which is he is. I was given the idea of make uh, a oracle, which is basically the spontaneous caster, the sorcerer equivalent to cleric, where sorcerer is to wizard, oracle is to cleric. Um, and then you take the mystery of life, which means that you're a little more focused on healing. And then you take as a bonus feat heavy armor proficiency, so that you are really hard to hit. And then you just focus on your stats that allow you to heal, and then from there, any stats that happen to benefit you in terms of like build up your defenses and your ability to carry equipment and that kind of stuff. Um, and so from there, he became a character who, because he was focused on healing people through use of the life mystery, um, I can't remember the mechanic, but it's basically like the bloodline abilities for sorcerers. Revelations. The revelation that I took early on was lifelink, and that allows me to, uh, based on, I think the oracle level, a number of party members can be linked to me as long as they're within like a certain distance and line of sight. And at the start of my turn, every turn I can choose to drop that link or take 5 damage from them, healing them, taking the damage onto myself. And so instead of having to run around healing people, what Petros could do is in his heavy armor just kind of sit in the back, and the heavy armor protects him from a lot of standard attacks that will be trying to hit him. Stand in the back and just go, I cast Cure on myself. Everyone else just healed 5 HP, which, might not seem like a lot, but that's, if in a party that I was running him, it was like 8 people. So that's 35 HP of healing that just came off of everyone else and hits me for damage instead, and then focused on maximizing his cure ability so that he could heal all that damage or most of that damage off of himself. And if it was really dangerous and he wouldn't be safe enough, you just drop it. And so in order to make things a little more interesting, I was like, okay, well, this character shouldn't be allowed to wade into combat and hit things, because now he's going to be doing like a double duty kind of stuff of like, now I'm hitting really hard, I'm dealing a lot of damage, and I'm able to keep myself alive and my party alive without really too much effort and having to maneuver around the battlefield. Um, and from there, I built a whole backstory as to the reason why he was a pacifist. It ended up being like the deity that gave him the powers that he had actually had forced the pacifism upon him, as he was actually a very proficient gladiator arena fighter um, archetype in his previous quote unquote life. As I only ever started playing him as this iteration, he had been a very proficient fighter, and he actually did it for the love of the fighting. He loved the violence and the power that he felt as he was, you know, fighting these people and slaying them in the arena. And his whole thing was, as he was about to strike down the chosen of this god, they intervened and decided to take him from being a killer and force him into, for once, doing some good and healing and repairing damage instead. And that became Petros. And from there, we just kind of worked on him a little bit, and he actually ended up like, I got a little fed up with the build and the fact that people kept being like, well, you don't fight, you don't hit things, you don't help in the combat. It's like, I'm keeping you alive. None of you have ever known what it's like to go below half health because of me. But, you know, and there, not all the players at the table were like that. There's just a couple who were like, kept trying to be like, we do so much more than you. Okay. But we'll talk about the other build of Petros at another time. That was Petros Hawklight, and I'm thinking maybe I want to actually talk about some of the other characters that I've played because I've had some really interesting builds, really interesting concepts, and I think a lot of people tend to like shoehorn themselves into something because they think, oh, I have to build this kind of character, it has to be this kind of thing, it has to be super serious, it has to like agree with the world, and so they stop having fun with the game. And remember, a game that is no longer fun is a chore. But they stop having fun with the game because they feel like they're obligated to do something this way or that way, and like the character has to meet certain standards. And it's like, no, it's tabletop. We're trying to tell a story together. So let me know if you want to hear anything. I've got a few different characters that like are pretty interesting. I actually have a build that for a rogue that is very atypical. I played a swashbuckler that I was kind of proud of. I played a tiefling like mystic theurge that was kind of interesting. And I've played Scion. I've played Vampire the Masquerade. I've played Shadowrun. I've had a number of different characters that I've played in Shadowrun. And there's a lot of interesting things I've done throughout it. So unfortunately, some of those games only ever lasted a few days of actual game time, so not necessarily the most to pull from on some of those stories, but it could be interesting to explain and just open your eyes as to what might be out there. And even I haven't played that many tabletop systems. Like, there's a lot out there that are more obscure that I have never even heard of until watching someone else talk about them or play them on a stream or something like that. So yeah, be excellent to each other. Be excellent to yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.